What's up? This is Kobe with Sample Source back with another video. In today's video, what I'm going to talk about is how one of my students made $2,500 in a single sale. First, I'm going to cover what he offered. Second, I'm going to cover the entire sales process precisely start to finish so you can just copy it in your own business. On this channel, I talk about my rapid sales system, which is the quickest way for producers to make $1,000 a week predictably and reliably without YouTube, a large following, or without relying on any algorithm. And before we hop into the video, if you want my entire sales script entirely free, this is exactly what helped me to earn as much as $13,000 in a single month. Simply DM me the word sales on Instagram at Kobe Sample Source, and I'll send you that free course right over to your inbox. Now let's hop into the video. Okay, going over what he offered, the first and most important thing is he gave what is called lifetime access to his beat catalog. So this means that as long as he's living, breathing, making beats, they can get access to his beat catalog. So the second thing that we put into the offer is that these are not going to be exclusives or customs. These are going to be unlimited leases. So that way it's almost as if you're selling air. That way you can just go and send a beat out whenever they want and send a quick email with the stems. So they are not going to get anything that requires a lot of work. Next thing they got was mastering. So it doesn't take them very long to master, about 5 to 10 minutes each. And then if you're averaging it as if they get 4 beats a year or 8 beats a year, that's only going to be about a couple hours a year. So that way it's not really that much effort in terms of fulfillment. The last thing that they got with the offer was one-on-ones. And so this is more of like a partnership, is what one of the artists that bought from him said. And this is what artists like, is that you are investing in them. So then that way they feel like you're invested in the releases and helping them with the strategy side of things so that they can get a lot more input from somebody who's already doing a lot of marketing and already doing a lot of products and stuff like that. So this is really beneficial, especially if you're one of their favorite producers. Then this is going to be a major factor. Now, this is not going to be lifetime one-on-ones. It's actually just going to be 6 months is what he did in this case. And honestly, you could do a lot less. Reason being is that they're going to see a lot more of the effects, positive effects, and feel a lot better about it on the front end versus months and months later, they may not even want to show up for those. So you don't have to do as much in terms of that. So that was the offer that got to 2,500, and I think it's a very fair price. I think it's a steal for the artist, and I think it's also great for the producer to make $2,500 at once. A lot of producers don't even make that in a year or even a month, and he made this in a day. Okay, now let's talk about the sales process. So first, what we did is we used Spotify to find artists. So basically, you go onto Spotify and you're going to start with an artist that is independent, that's in your niche. And I usually find this artist from going to a producer who's in my niche and looking through their followers and searching the word official. That way I'm going to get a few different accounts that I can go and click out into multiple tabs and figure out which ones are artists. So then you're going to go to their Linktree, to their Spotify, and then what you want to do is make a playlist with one of their songs. So when you make a playlist with one of the songs in your niche, what happens is you can go to that playlist, scroll down, and look through the recommended, and it'll give you 10 recommended tabs, or 10 recommended artists, that you can go and search through. So what's cool about this is there's also a little button at the bottom that says refresh on it, and you can just literally go and click this button over and over again. It gives you a new list of 10 artists. So this essentially gives you unlimited artists to choose from out of that one playlist with just one song in it. So now that you're finding serious artists that buy beats, the second thing that you want to do is go and message them. So IG DMs are really powerful when used the right way, but most people have no idea how to use them. So I'm going to teach you exactly how I use Instagram DMs. So first, you need them to respond. If you can't get artists to respond, then there's no way for them to buy. So you need to get their attention. The way that I get their attention is with a 3-step process. And the first thing that you want to do with these DMs is, one, to be specific. So whenever I send a DM, I try to be as specific as possible. If I see their name on there, I'll use their name. And if I listen to one of their songs on Spotify, I will use the name of the song. Then I'll tell them that I found it from Spotify. If it's a YouTube music video, then I'll tell them that's where I found it. If it's a snippet on their page, I'll mention that I heard it on their page. That way it's super specific and they can't get past that thinking that it is a spam message that got copied and pasted. This is something that you manually typed out. The second thing that I like to do is give them a compliment. So if you've read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, you know that people love to be complimented. They don't want to be flattered, so don't go overboard, but just give them a really simple, genuine compliment about how talented they are, what you like about them as an artist, and that's going to go a long ways. The third and final step to this is to ask a question. So what's important about this is that if you leave it out, then they might just respond with praying hand emojis or just like the message and leave it alone. But you want to prompt a response by asking a question, because when you ask questions, it draws out answers. And so that's why it's important and effective to ask questions. So now that you have gotten them to respond in your inbox, you need to know how many people are going to respond in the first place so you know what ratio to look at. So I like to look and make sure there's at least 1 out of 3 that respond. And then from there, what I want to do is do what I call the double A method, which is to acknowledge whatever they respond with and then ask the next question. And that's going to prompt them to keep responding so that you can move them through your manual DM funnel. Now, my whole philosophy when it comes to DMs is to stay in the DMs as little as possible, because what I really want is to get them onto a sales call. If I get them onto a sales call, they're going to be able to pay me enormous sums of money, like $1,000, or even what one of my students did, like I'm explaining in this video, which was $2,500. So would you rather get $50 in the DMs or $2,500 on a phone call? I'm going to opt for the phone call. So the longer you stay in the DMs, the easier it is for them to ghost you. So that's why you want to respond as quickly as possible and then just acknowledge and ask the next question. After I've gotten them to respond enough, really what I want to do is make sure they're releasing new music, number one. And then number two, figure out what vibe they're looking for if they are releasing new music. If they say that, then what I want to do is figure out if they care or not, if I have beats. So what I'll say is, I'm not sure if you care or not, but I think I have some beats that are exactly in your lane. And that way they're going to respond by giving me their email and saying to send some beats through. When they say this, what I'll say is I'm going to send some for them to preview, and then I'm going to pitch a call. So I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to send some to preview in a second, but I would love to jump on a call with you and see, what your goals are this year for music. So that way I can get them onto a call and start the sales process instead of sending them beats, because I want buyers, I don't want browsers. So the last thing I want to do is send them to a website. If they agree to the call, then what you want to do is work out the logistics of that call and figure out when, what platform you're using for the call. I know my student, he'll just use Zoom, shoot them a Zoom link and do the call that way. What I like to do is use IG audio, and that way it's a really low barrier to entry for them, or you can just grab their phone number. Either way, but if you live in Europe and they live in the US, you're going to want to use Instagram audio or Zoom. You don't want to get their phone number, because then you're going to have to go through WhatsApp or Telegram or get a long distance phone charge. So now that you've figured out the logistics and set the call up, then you want to come true on your process, which is to send the beats out. And you don't want to send full beats out. What I like to do is just send them my site. And that way I don't have to send them a bunch of specific beats and make a playlist for somebody who I don't even know is serious about working with me yet. So that's everything to do with DMs. The next step is to actually do the first call. You can either call this a set call, but what I call it is a triage call. Triage is a medical definition, which is to determine what the patient needs exactly. So in this case, the patient is going to be the artist, so you're determining what they actually need. So on this call, all you're trying to do is get them to like, know, and trust you enough to get onto a sales call. So this is the anti-sales call. You're not wanting to sell them anything on this call. So the format of this call, whenever I get on with them, is rapport, number one. So basically, I would just want to talk about, their location, what the music scene's like out where they live, the temperature, weather, whatever you want to talk about. And then once you've figured out a little bit about them, you can ask them about themselves a little bit. Then you want to pre-frame the call. And what this means is that you just want to tell them what the call is about and what you're looking to get out of it. So you're like, hey, I didn't really want to, pitch my beats or anything on this call. I just wanted to figure out what your goals are and a little bit more about you. And then, if we are a fit to work, then cool, we can get on to another call. But for now, I just wanted to, keep it kind of chill and laid back. So that's what you want to do there, so they know what to expect and they know they're not being sold anything. Next, what you want to do is go over their goals. So this is basically talking about what their rollout is, what they want to accomplish with music. So it's like shorter goals, more tactical goals, long-term goals if you want to. But most people don't know their long-term goals, so I really focus on the short-term goals and their music goals. Once you figured out their goals, what you want to do is figure out where they're at currently. So essentially, you want to ask them, how many songs do you have written? How many songs, beats do you have locked in for that new project? You want to ask them questions about where they're getting their beats right now. If they have an engineer that they're working with closely that, does a good job with their voice, or they're looking for a different one that you can connect them with. So you want to ask them a bunch of questions. And, if they've had a personal producer before, like let's say you're selling personal beats, custom beats, then you need to figure out what their experience was. So you're like digging for a little bit of like pain, and past experiences. And then in the goals earlier, you were talking more about what their desires were. So basically what this does is you figure out where they want to go, and then you figure out where they're at. And in between is going to be this gap here. And that's where you want to plug in your offer. The offer that we just talked about is what you would plug in here. So you don't want to go and pitch them on this call, but you've established that gap here so that they can be sold to right here. If you don't establish a gap, then they don't notice that there's a gap, then they're comfortable being where they're at, and then they won't buy from you. So you want to talk about where they're at and where they're going, and then establish that gap. Once you've established a gap, what you want to do is pitch. So what does your pitch look like? You're simply inviting them onto a Zoom call. What I like to say is, hey, just like I said in the DMs, I thought I had some beats for you. Would love to hop onto a Zoom call, go through some of my catalog and see if some are a good fit. Not sure if you would want to do that or not. I do charge for beats, but just let me know if that's a deal breaker. And 1 out of 2 of them are going to want to hop onto a call with me. So that's kind of the stats that you want to look at. If you're getting at least 1 out of 2 onto the sales call, then you're good. If it's like 1 out of 4 or something like that, that means that you need to go and look through this and see what you're doing wrong. Or maybe you're not even pitching at all. So if you don't pitch, you can't get them to go onto a sales call. So that's what it's going to come down to. Okay, so let's move on to the 4th step, which is the application. So basically, there's a little bit of a baton handoff in between the triage call and the sales call. So basically, what the application is going to do is get them to show up qualified to the sales call. You want them to have, money so that they can pay you, right? So basically, you're going to do this with Calendly. So it's free, which is the cool thing. So with Calendly, what you do is you ask them a few questions. You can say, what kind of beats are you looking for in the first question? And you make these all required so they actually answer them. Then you ask, what elements are you wanting in the beats? That's what I like to ask. So what kind of beats? That can be more genre. Elements in the beats could be like, for me, I play guitar, or you can say, do you want more like 808s, or do you want a bass line that's more of a live bass? Do you want guitars or keys, or is it other? And that way they're going to answer that. And none of these questions matter. The 2 that matter are, can they put a deposit down if everything sounds good on the call? And do they have a budget for beats currently? So if they respond yes to these, you can take the call. If they respond no to these, then you need to go and hit them up and ask why and see if they actually do have a budget. And if they don't, then just don't take the call. Okay, and the 5th step is my favorite, which is the sales call. Now, you don't want to label this as a sales call whenever you're getting them onto Calendly. You make an event, and that's what they're going to fill out. So when they see it, they don't want to know that it's a sales call. You don't want them to know it's a sales call. So instead, what you would rather do is call it a vibe session or a preview session. You could call it a music advisory session. You can call it anything except a sales call and you'll be okay. Now, the sales call is really, just a few steps, and I'll walk you through those. The first is rapport. So you don't want to just hop in and start talking about the business side. You want to warm them up a little bit. Do that for about 2 to 5 minutes. Then you want to frame the call similar to what we did in the triage call, but this is going to be a very, very harsh frame and very salesy, and that's way they know exactly what to expect at the end. So I'll say, have you ever been on a call like this with a producer before? If they say no, they say yes, it doesn't really matter. You just want to say, all right, cool. Well, just to make sure you know what to expect, I want to go through some beats, and usually we'll pick out about 5 or so and make sure some are a good fit. If they're not a good fit, then no worries. We can still be friends. We can go our separate ways, but we can still stay in touch. If they are a good fit, then we can go ahead and get those sent over to you, get an agreement sent to you, and move forward and take the first payment. So that's important because if you don't let them know there's going to be payment on this call, they may not be ready or expecting to put out any funds towards that. So what you want to do after that is say, what I like to do is stay away from maybes and, I don't knows, I'll think about it, because that's not really going to help us to make more music. So not sure if that's fair or not. If they say, yeah, that's fair, which they usually do, then I will say, cool. So is it fair to say yes or no at the end of the call? If they say that it's fair, then you can move on. If they don't give you a clear answer, then make sure that you don't move forward until you get a clear yes. Next, what you want to do is preview the beats. So you want to go through every beat, and then you want to do what's called a temperature check. So I'll do this temp check. And basically what that is after every beat, I want to make sure that it's something that they want for sure, because they might say they love all of your beats, but you want to make sure that they know for sure if they're going to be able to use it or not, because they won't buy it unless they're 100% certain. So what I like to do is ask them, is this a for sure? Is this a maybe? Or is this a no? And if they say it's a maybe, then I'll write it down for later because they may want it. If it's a for sure, then I'll say, cool, do you want me to set this to the side? If they say yeah, then I'll go and put it into my phone notes. Once you've played beats and you know that they picked out enough, then you can ask them if they want to preview some more or if that's enough. Once they say it's enough, you're like, cool, is it cool if I go through my pillars for how I help artists? So what you want to do is have 3 pillars. Now, what a pillar is it's not it's your offer, but it's how you're selling the offer, how you're presenting it to the artist so that they understand the value you're presenting. So what I do is I have a cool name up here, like I made for one of my students. We called it the Platinum Package because he has a lot of placements. And so he was saying, hey, you're going to get the same attention and quality that you get when I get placements with these big artists. Now, another way to frame this is to do something that's like, hey, you're going to get a unique package. And so with this unique package, you are going to get something that is made from scratch or something else. It doesn't really matter if you have placements, don't have placements. You're just trying to make yourself stand out. And the way that you make yourself stand out with pillars is you say in your pillar what most producers do. Then you say what you do. And then you say why that helps them. And so most producers, they might be doing something that's not helpful to artists. So you're like, most producers do this and that's bad. And then here's what I do and this is good. And here's why it's going to help you. And if you mention it in that way, that's going to make you stand out and be unique. So after you've said your pillars, what you want to do is do what I call a 1 out of 10. So first, I'll say, is that helpful or not helpful? If they say it's helpful, then I'll say, cool. On a scale of 1 to 10, with a 1 being that's just a bunch of fancy words, but it's not what you want, and a 10 being this is exactly what you need for your next single, project, release, whatever, where are you at? Where would you rank it? And they're going to say a number. And when they say that, then I'm going to say why that number specifically. Okay. So when you ask why that number specifically, they'll give you a reason. And then you'll say, okay, cool. Well, what's missing from this that would get you to a 10? And they'll tell you, and then you will go and plug in something that fixes that and overcomes that objection, whether it's a guarantee, whether it's an added service, whether it's throwing in more beats, whether it's something else that's going to get them to a 10. But whenever they get to a 10, you're like, all right, cool. So you're a 10? They say yes, and they're like, all right, cool. Are you ready for the price? So that's when you're going to drop the price. Now, when you price drop, what's important with this is you don't want to be rambling on and saying a bunch of words. What you want to do instead is say, all right, cool. So the price for everything is just $2,500. You want to be very, very direct and very confident, and then you want to be very still. So this is something that I learned from working in higher ticket sales, is that you don't want to be moving around a lot. You don't want to be doing what I'm doing right now and, like scratching at something or adjusting something. You just want to be very still and quiet and let them say the first word. If it's more than 10 seconds, then I'll like to chime in and say, was that more than what you're expecting, less than what you're expecting, or right around what you thought it would be? And that way it's going to prompt them to give an answer. Now, after you drop the price, they're probably going to say that's too expensive. Not a lot of people have 2,500 at once. Now, that's fine. It doesn't mean they're not going to buy. You want to do what I like to call AID. And this is an acronym, which means you have to agree first, then you have to isolate, then you have to do what's called a double tie down. Okay? So agreeing, you're like, cool, no worries. I definitely get it. It's a lot of money. So you agree with them to diffuse pressure so that they don't feel like you're against them. Then you want to isolate. So basically you're like, money aside, was there anything else that was keeping you from moving forward? If they say there's nothing else that's keeping them from moving forward, it's just the money side of things, then what you want to do is the double tie down and say, cool, so if we figured out money, then you're in. So we figured out money, then you're ready to go and get started today. And that way, it's going to tie them down to what they said earlier. And people like to be consistent. So if they say things 2-3 times in a row, then they want to stay consistent with that. So after you do AID, they're going to say, yeah, if we figured out money, I'm ready to go. So you're like, all right, cool. Well, let's figure out the finance side of things. What I typically charge is $2,500, and you can do whatever you want for payment plans. But in this case, I'd be like, cool. So I usually do $500 a month if we have to split it up. Does that work? Or do we need to split it up further? If they say we need to split it up further, then you're like, all right, cool. So would $250 a month work? Or you could even do something like $50 a week. Does $50 a week work? And so that way you get $200 a month. And then you're like, is that more fair? If they say yes, then you send them over the link in Stripe to set up the payment plan and for them to pay you on the call. If it doesn't work, then you want to have a number in mind that you will not go lower than. So if that's $100 a month, which is really low, maybe it's $200. You're like, hey, is there any way you can get up to $50 a week or $200 a month? That's really the lowest that I can go. If they say yes, then you send them a payment link and you get paid. If they say no, then you go ahead and wrap up the call and hang up. I use Stripe for all my payment plans, so it's really easy to go in and set up payment plans so you can get their card on file and get recurring income every month. So if you're doing it through PayPal, stop doing that. Also, PayPal has added extra fees, so a lot of people don't like going through PayPal anymore. Stripe is going to fix that. If Stripe's not available in your country, make sure you figure out a payment processor that will process recurring revenue. So those are the steps. Use Spotify to find serious artists, IG DMs to message them. After you get them onto a call through Instagram audio, you're going to get them to like, know, and trust you, and then pitch your Zoom call at the end. Have them fill out the Calendly application, and then go through those sales call steps so that you can get them to pay you on the call. So once you get good at these 4 basic skills, you're going to be able to basically make your own ticket. And here's the math behind it. If you message 20 artists and you get a 25% response rate, then that's going to equal 5 convos a day. Out of those 5 convos, you're trying to get 1 out of 5 onto a triage call. Out of those conversations, or out of those triage calls, you're trying to get 1 out of 2 onto a sales call. And then on sales calls, you're trying to get 1 out of 3 to pay you money. So out of those 5 conversations a day, you're going to get 6 triage calls. And then if you get 1 out of 2 on sales calls, you're going to get 3 sales calls. And if you get 1 out of 3 to pay you at least $1,000, then that's going to be 1 per week or 1,000 per week. So you can make $4,000 a month with this strategy. That's the simple math behind it. So you can make $4,000 a month with this simple strategy. You just have to master 4 skills, which is finding artists, messaging them, nurturing them with the triage call, and then converting them into sales with the Zoom call. So you get those 4 basic skills together and you can make $1,000 a week with simple math and basic psychology. So that's how one of my students made $2,500 in a single week. He's made $1,400 in a week before, over $3,000 in a month before, and he's already made about that in a single week. That's in revenue. So hopefully this video broke down how simple the process is and step by step how you can just go and copy it for yourself. So I don't want to leave you empty-handed. If you don't know already, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you implement this and make thousands of dollars a month or even thousands of dollars in a single week, like I've helped one of my students. So if you're ready for one-on-one help, what I want you to do is go down in the description below and go ahead and click that link that's in the description or in the pinned comment. You can book a free strategy call with me and we can go through, do a free business audit for you and make sure that you're even a good fit for the program that I have or not. If you are a good fit, then I can get you into the program and help you. If not, then I'll go ahead and send you free resources. And if you're not ready for one-on-one help yet, then you can go over to Instagram at Kobe Sample Source, DM me the word sales, and I'm going to send you over my exact sales script entirely for free so that you can get the entire sales strategy and start going and implementing this. So I hope this video was helpful to you. Once again, if you're ready for one-on-one help and you want to start making a full-time income from beats in the next 16 weeks, then go ahead and click that link in the description and book the call with me. Or you can go over to IG at Kobe Sample Source and DM me the word full-time. So either way, super happy to be able to help you with this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.